Welcome back to the Pipeline Profits Podcast, where we discuss the best practices in sales and marketing. We have an unbelievable guest for you guys today. You may have seen his YouTube channel. You may recognize him as a guy who's done hundreds of flips. He's not the biggest sports fan, but if he had to choose his favorite sports team, it would be the Raptors. That being said, I know he is not the biggest fan of Toronto real estate. However, he's not too far down the road. He spends about half of his time here in Canada and half of his time in the sunny state of Florida. We are absolutely honored to have a wonderful dad, an amazing investor, and the fruitful investor himself, Mat Piche, on the podcast today. Matt, welcome, man. Excited to have you. Of course. There you go. So, hey, look, I know we talked about this a little bit before, but I'm flying solo today because my guest host Ryan is doing what classic realtors do and moving again. And so I know you can feel that pain, and I want to talk a little bit about your backstory in a second, but I want to learn a little bit more about like your transition down to Florida and what that move has been like for you so far.
Yeah, so we're just seeing basically like real estate in Canada, specifically GTA and where I'm based, Kitchener-Waterloo, is just getting too insane for like investing. So like while all the properties are appreciating in value and probably not going to stop appreciating, that's awesome. And that's great for our flipping business. But for being like a long-term real estate investor, cash flow is like almost impossible. Like nothing works. So we just thought it's time to cash out. So I sold off actually all my properties from about 2019 to 2022. The last property I sold actually was February 2022. Almost like I knew something was going on. But anyway, so I sold all my 50 rental properties and cashed out. And now we're just going to the US full on because I see way more value there. It just makes way more sense. So like that's what we're pretty much up to nowadays.
And from a lifestyle perspective, how's it been going back and forth?
Yeah, it's awesome. Like we love to drive. We have like a young son, he's 2 years old. We bring our dog in the truck. So it's a pretty cool like 3 to 4 day drive. So like it's not too bad. And yeah, we're driving down to nice sunny weather. So it's exciting.
Do you have any, do you have a regular route that you guys go that you're typically stopping at now? Like favorite restaurants and stuff?
Yeah. Yeah, so the first time we went down was down the East Coast, so like I-95, which was, there was like way more to see, way more stops, way more restaurants. The second time we went down was I-75, more of like Kentucky, like more of the kind of like the, like what do you call it, like the Midwest or whatever. Yeah. Very boring, which is what I like. So it's just fields and fields, no traffic. So like that's our new preferred route.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure, I'm going to have some questions for you when I decide that I'm going to start investing in Florida as well. But what I really want to know, and the name of the game for this podcast is, how did you get into the world of sales? I know, a little bit of your backstory when it comes to like renovations and whatnot, but you're still licensed, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Licensed agent, top tier investor, have done some of your own work. Now you're, an amazing marketer as well when it comes to your, branding and presence online. So let's rewind the clock a little bit before this all started. Like, tell me about your kind of sales history.
So my sales history was like right out of high school. I was a carpenter. So I did my apprenticeship for carpentry. I worked for a company during my apprenticeship. And as soon as my apprenticeship was over, like the day, I quit my job and started my own business, renovating properties strictly for investors. So when I started being a carpenter, I was 17 years old, and I was already obsessed with real estate, flipping houses by like 17, 18 years old. So I knew I was doing carpentry for the purpose of like flipping houses. So like during my whole apprenticeship, I just couldn't wait to start my own. So at around age 22, actually, I bought my first property, finished my apprenticeship, quit my job, had no money, and started this new renovation business for investors only. So I started getting all these clients from RAIN, the Real Estate Investment Network, way back in the day, like 2012, 2013. And the more and more I had these clients and I was working on their houses, renovating their properties, they were like, Matt, man, I wish you were a realtor. Like all the realtors I'm working with, like they're idiots. They don't know anything about renovations. They don't understand cash flow. They don't understand investing. They're just looking for that next check. And they're like, you understand investing. Like you're obsessed with it. You know how to renovate, obviously. So like if you were a realtor, that'd be pretty cool, man. So I kind of like put things together and I was like, you know what? I don't want to be a carpenter for the rest of my life. Like that I already knew, but I never really thought about being a realtor. But I thought like it's a no-brainer. It would help my real estate investing business. I would get kind of back-end data, obviously, on the market to find deals. So I was like, whatever. So I since in 4 months, like when you could do that.
Yeah. I was part of that era as well. So I feel
yeah. So I just crammed through it. I killed it, got it in 4 months. And then, started I was like half carpenter during the day, half realtor at night for like, I don't know, a good 2 to 3 years before I started getting steady clients. Kind of left the carpenter thing behind once I got steady business. And then I just kept building my marketing and building my real estate investing business to the point where now I'm kind of leaving the realtor thing behind again. And I'm just a full-time investor. I really only keep my license at this point for myself. For like all the flips we do, all the properties we do, it makes sense for me to keep that. But yeah, that's pretty much what I got going on.
So let's talk a little bit about this. What do you think is the best part of being an agent, and what is the worst part? And you can be candid, because our viewers are predominantly agents, not end users. I want to know your experience.
Being a realtor is like amazing. It's such a great business if you know how to market yourself and separate yourself from all the other realtors, which like at the beginning for myself, and I feel a lot of newer realtors especially, even today, like the brokers and like the owners of the company or whatever, they'll still instill this like you got to do the flyers, you got to do the park benches, you got to put your face on a bus, and like you should get an office that costs like $1,000 a month, but you should probably get that. It's just like, I feel like a lot of young realtors and new realtors spend so much money, maybe not so much anymore with social media and like YouTube videos and learning how to be a realtor. But back then, especially, I was kind of like, okay, like, I don't know, like these are the big realtors are telling me I should get an office, telling me I should do these marketing strategies. And they're just like bleeding and bleeding money without any money coming in. So I tell people it's like a very savage business. So like, if you're not selling anything, you're still paying for your license, you're still paying for the office, you're still paying your fees, you're still paying your marketing. So whether you're selling or not, you're paying a crap ton of money. So just be ready for that. And
totally.
But I'd say separate yourself. Don't do all that park bench stuff, which we can talk about on here, obviously.
Yeah, no, I would love to talk to you a little bit about the marketing side of things, because I think you've done an incredible job of like really standing out. I mean, you know, even the Fruitful Investor kind of handle or brand that you've built for yourself is just something where you totally kind of carved out that niche. So I would love to learn a little bit about like, how did that even come about? Like, what was the thing that kind of triggered that branding?
So like, even like when I was first realtor, and even when all the big bosses were telling me like, you gotta get the office, all this stuff, I kind of was like, I don't know, like I'll do it for a bit because they're telling me to, but I always had this feeling of like, this is not the way to go. Like, you know, at that time, back in 2012, I don't know, yeah, I was 22. So it was when social media was like kind of just really starting. YouTube was like just kind of taking off. And I thought to myself, like, there's gotta be something I gotta do different than everybody else. Like, I don't have money for these flyers. I don't have money for the bus ads, like all that stuff. So I figured I'm just going to go all in on social media. I'm young. I understand social media. All the boomers don't, especially at that point. So like, I'm just going to go all in, film videos like about real estate investing. Because even at that time when I started, I knew I was going to be a realtor specializing only with investors, which is a big advantage that I would tell realtors is specialize in one niche and own it. So at least I got that right at the very beginning. So like, I'm only working with investors. So I made videos for investors about Kitchener-Waterloo, what's going on in the market, how to invest in Kitchener-Waterloo. So I was really setting myself up as the authority. Like, I'm the guy you want to work with. Like, if you're investing in Kitchener-Waterloo, don't even think about working with Steve or Stacy. Like, they're not the person, it's me. So like, that's basically the brand and the authority I was kind of setting for myself. And it was totally worked. Like, it killed, especially then. Like, I had like 50 subscribers, 100 subscribers. And I was just like pouring in clients. Like, it's not like you need a big social media channel when you're specializing. You don't need this big channel. Yeah. And I did that for a couple of years. And like, I always knew like I wanted to be a real estate investor. Obviously, like that's my main focus. That's why I was a carpenter. That's why I'm a realtor, is to be an investor first and foremost. So I was making all these videos, getting these clients, which was awesome. But what started happening when I started getting like the marketing right around 2014, 2015, after doing it a couple of years, I had clients coming up to me being like, yo, like I'm watching all your videos, like you know exactly what you're talking about. Like, why would I just be your client? How about I just invest with you? Like, just take my money, you do all the work. Like, I'd rather just be with you, man, rather than just a client. So that happened like once, happened twice, happened 3 times. I was like, Jesus, like what's going on here? This is crazy. So that's when I realized like, man, the social media aspect, the marketing aspect is like incredible for building a brand. And I did all this video stuff to get realtor clients. Screw that. I was actually getting partners like hand over fist. So that's when I tripled down, hired people to do all like my video editing, to write blogs, to do all this stuff for me because I was just expanding. And I just dove in full on to social media. And now I'm pretty much a social media influencer trying.
No, I think you're doing a pretty darn good job for sure. But I think that I would say is like, for lack of a better term, like you have balls. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't seem like there's too many things that scare you away, right? Yeah. But if I'm a new agent and I'm listening or watching this, right, and I'm thinking like, okay, I do kind of want to do social media, but like, I'm kind of scared to put myself out there. What's the 1 or 2 tips that the fruitful investor would give them to say, like, this, do these 2 things to get out of your own way?
Yeah, so like number 1, good is good enough. Like we all think, like, especially putting your face on camera, I know for some people it's like so scary, just so awkward. Like, who cares? Like, if you go back to my YouTube channel and watch the first videos, which I still have up, like, I'm so awkward. It's terrible. It's shot with like a BlackBerry 2, like whatever was around that time. Like terrible quality, like, but it's still killed. It's still got the message across. People care more about like who you are rather than like what you look like or like what you're saying, kind of per se. They care more about your personality and will they jive with you, which is like marketing 101, which I learned over like practice. Now it's being taught everywhere. But like people, especially for being a realtor, like there's realtors everywhere. Like, well, what separates you from the one right beside you? Like nothing really, other than who you are. So like some people watch my videos and they're like, yeah, like I like Matt. I like his energy. I feel like I could be his friend, which is really marketing 101. Or some people watch me and they're like, I can't stand this dude. This guy's crazy. Like that's just that's just what's gonna happen, right? So just accept that some people are gonna like you, some people are gonna hate you. That's just part of marketing. It's just part of life, whatever, man. So that's what I would say. Just get over that fear of like, oh, what if I look awkward? What if I suck on camera? You're gonna suck. You're gonna look weird on the first videos, especially. Who cares? Like just do it because nobody else is doing it. All the realtors, especially all the older realtors, the boomers especially, they're still doing the bus ads, the benches, like all, and like really cringy videos. So like if you can just make somewhat decent quality videos, like you're good, man.
Yeah, and you know what I really, really liked that you said, like essentially I could say the exact same thing or have very similar content to what you had. Like we could both have the exact same script and say the same script. And some people will go, hey, I actually resonate better with Matt. And some people go, I actually resonate better with Emma, even though the content is exactly the same. And I think that that was one of the hurdles specifically for me at the beginning. I'm like, I don't want to say the same shit as everybody else. But ultimately, like you said, the underlying thing is who you are. And if someone actually resonates with you, even if the content is the same. So I guess to that point, are there any tips or tricks that you would suggest to come up with content? Like how do you kind of spark that creativity for yourself?
Yeah, so like if you're a realtor or like you're trying to get business off of YouTube specifically, I would definitely do videos based on like your niche. So like if you're a Hamilton realtor, if you're a Toronto realtor, a Yorkville, like whatever area you're in, the beaches of Toronto. Like if you just own that area and like you just make video after video after video about like that niche, like that's number 1. You're gonna crush. If you try and copy like big finance YouTubers too early, like at the beginning, trying to build a YouTube channel, like that's cool and all, it'll work maybe, but you're not gonna get business off of there. And like that's what I just kind of talk about with my marketing and the videos is like honestly without being too like crazy, like I make way more money than most of like these big finance YouTubers because I pull people off of YouTube and I make money in the real world, selling properties as a realtor, buying real estate investments, flipping, stuff like that, rather than like just being a YouTuber. Like that's fun and it's cool and all. Like that's what I'm doing now at this stage because like that's the direction I'm going because I already have the following, I already have all the joint venture partners. So now we're switching gears 12 years later. Now I'm being a fun YouTuber guy, but like at the beginning, for 12 years, it was just like specialized. I own Kitchener-Waterloo. Don't even think about coming to Kitchener if you're a realtor. Like just get out of here because I own it. Like that's what I was doing.
Okay, so with that being said, when I'm a new agent and I'm looking to bring eyeballs offline, right? Because ultimately that's what you're saying is like, the views are kind of vanity metrics to a certain extent. But if you really want to make money, you have to convert the eyeballs and remove them from online to offline. So did you have a specific call to action? Did you have a lead magnet? Like what was it that you were doing for the JV partners? Or like, even to rewind back further as an agent, what was the thing that was getting people to contact you directly off the internet?
Yeah, so even as a realtor, like I didn't really have any call to actions like click this form and sign. Like it was very natural, which was like the key. So I would just make videos. I would post my email, obviously, like in the YouTube description, like so people could like contact me. And on my Instagram, I had my email or whatever. Like that was it. Like, I didn't have any like too sophisticated, crazy things that we have now, like lists and mail lists and stuff like that, and ClickFunnels pages. Like now we have all that kind of stuff. But back then, it was just like, here's my email. I'm the expert, and that's what people really, really appreciated for sure. Like if they watch like 5 of my videos, like I have you. You're done. Like you're not going to another realtor after watching my videos. So like people will contact me, and like the coolest thing is people love the content so much and just resonated with it that like they became friends with me before they even met me, which is the coolest thing about social media marketing. Like when I go to a real estate conference in Ontario or whatever, like I just walk in and people are like, Matt, like you're the guy. Like they'll just run up to me as if they've known me for like a year long, because they have. Like I never met them once in my life before. I just met them right now, but they're like, yo, what's up, man? Like they're like my friend. I'm like, hey, what's going on? You know what I mean? But like that's just how it goes with online marketing. How powerful it is just being yourself, you know, putting good content out there, and then people will want to be your friend. And when that happens, it's over.
Okay, so that's kind of like the tipping point or the breaking point, is when you've accumulated enough of a database or like a library of content online that someone can kind of get indoctrinated with your brand. And if they've watched X number of videos, you think like, okay, I kind of got you in my web now.
100%, exactly.
Okay, so let's talk. So that's more like the organic side of things, right? And I know you mentioned earlier, you were like, even though I only had like 50 or 100 subs at that point in time, I was still actually making commissions off of a low subscriber count because it was so specific that people were coming to me. But would you say that there's any kind of threshold where you're like, you have to be consistent enough to hit this before you start seeing results? Because I think people give up like really easily.
Yeah, for sure. And like I teach all about social media marketing and videos, and I hear it all the time from investors and realtors too, where they'll try for like a month or 2 or 3 months, and then they're like, it didn't work. But like there is that tipping point, like you're saying, where like I always tell people it's like minimum 6 months if you do it right. Probably a year, honestly. Like you got to do at least one video a week about your market, and not just like stupid, boring numbers. Like here's the numbers that sold on Tread. Like nobody cares about that. Like I'm talking about like authority content. Like this is why, you know, top 10 reasons to invest in the beaches. 3 ways to get the best single family deal in the beaches. Like that's all you're doing. It's like those type of videos. But it does take a long time to like build up that category or whatever. And then when people go down the rabbit hole of all your videos, like that's when the tipping point happens. So it does take a while, but when it works, like it works, man. Like you're not paying for like bus ads and like just stupid crap like that costs so much money that doesn't honestly work at all. I don't know why any realtor does that. But like, don't do that. Like,
I mean, they're very hard to track. Like even, you know, I know a couple of people who do like flyering. You know, I love Facebook ads and I love to do like paid traffic, but it's because you have enough data behind it to be able to drive the decisions that you make with it. And I've always found like the bus benches or, you know, even flyering and stuff like that. It's like, it's very tough to understand how many, you know, and I guess it's different when it comes to potentially wholesaling. And I would love to know your thoughts on this too, because I know you do some flyering, but like, how can you track those things? Like, how do you know who's opened this envelope or, you know, who's actually read this or who's called for what? And I know there's QR codes and stuff, but when it comes to, you know, online paid where it's trackable versus just sending something out in the mail or just a bus bench or a billboard, I'm like, it kind of seems like lighting your money on fire.
And not only that, of like not being able to track it, it's just like what separates you from the next guy. Like, and that's really the most important thing is like, if there's 5 realtor cards in front of me, which I get like weekly, like we all do, what's the difference? You're all saying the same thing. It's just your face and you're like, I sell real estate. Like that's it? Like that's what separates me from Joe, from Stacy. That's it. So like what I do is like, yo, I'm the specialist. You need to work with me because I know what I'm talking about. I have experience. Check out my videos. I'm teaching you on YouTube. People want to work with experts, number one. Like I always say, a quick example, like if you break your foot, would you rather have a general surgeon fix your foot? When they do it, it'll be a decent job. Like you'll be able to walk out of the hospital, I'm sure. But would you rather work with like a foot specialist where like all they do every day is just like repair feet? I'd rather go with that person, right? It's like that's what you want to be as a realtor, is like that person.
So I know the question that is spinning in 1,000 people's heads is, what do I do to become that specialist? Because they might be thinking, oh, well, easy for you, Matt. You were, you know, you were a carpenter and you kind of knew the inner workings, and then you learned the real estate market, and it was like this harmonious thing for you, which is fantastic. You know, what are a couple tips that you might be able to provide someone to help them like choose a niche, and then like how do you actually become a specialist?
Yeah, so number one is figure out like your ideal customer avatar, which is like a genius marketing thing that like you should do. It's like level 101, but nobody does it really. Realtors or businesses in general just do what's called shotgun marketing. So they just like put their message out like, I'm a realtor in Toronto, and like that's it. And they just hope some people respond. But if you're like the specialist, it just goes right through. So first off is like, who's your ideal client? Not just any client, which is obviously like the beginner agent is like anyone who's gonna buy anything, right? Like that's not about what we want to do, because then you'll just get lost in the shuffle of working 12 hours a day, every day, looking for that next deal. It's not consistent. It's a terrible life. So first and foremost, like, who's your ideal client? What are their ages? What do they do for work? What do they do after work, like on their own time? Like, what are their hobbies? Like, dude, we're getting like deep into like psychology. Like, who's this person exactly? And then the videos that you make, the marketing that you make, the Facebook posts, the Instagram posts, whatever, are all geared to that person. Not only about like their work, like because they have to make money obviously to buy real estate, but like, what are they doing? Like, do they have kids or not? If they do, what are their ages? How old are they? Are they married or are they not married? Like that's how deep we're getting with this marketing avatar. And then all of our marketing speaks to that person. So for example, for myself, to put this into context, when I was like full on realtor, and even now as an investor looking for partners, the exact same marketing strategy, I have a very specific person. His name is Paul, right? So Paul is like 40 years old, 42. He works in a white collar computer job. You know, he makes like 120 grand a year, pretty good job, but he's busy. He's stressed out like crazy. He watches me. He wants to invest in real estate, watches the videos. He's like, how's Matt doing this? How's Matt traveling? This is crazy. Like, I want to do that. So Paul's day is crazy. He wakes up at 6 a.m. He's got to rush, make the kids breakfast, like drive them to daycare real quick, and then driving to work for like 8:30 a.m. Traffic, brake lights. He's stressed out. He gets to work. Finally, he can relax, but not really because he's at work. Then at 4 p.m., he's got to rush out of work, traffic, brake lights again, pick up the kids from daycare, bring them home, hurry up, make dinner with his wife, feed the kids, bring the kids to ballet and soccer at 6 p.m. They get home around 7:30 p.m. He's tired. The day's like, it's crazy tired. And the kids finally go to bed at 8 p.m. He can finally relax. But problem is, because he's so busy and crazy, he's not really with his wife anymore. There's no connection with his wife because they're so busy running around with work and kids. They don't connect anymore. So while they should connect, if you know what I mean, at 8 p.m., they're too tired. They're too tired. So they're scrolling TikTok, trying to decompress from the day, and they do it over and over and over again. That's my specific crazy person. So all my marketing is like how to have a great relationship with your wife because you invest in real estate so you can just relax a little more. How I spend so much time with my son Sawyer because I don't have a job. I'm a full-time real estate investor. So how about I can help you leave work at 3 p.m. and pick them up directly from school rather than daycare, and you beat all the rush hour traffic because you don't have to work until 5 p.m. anymore. You're a real estate investor. You bought a couple properties. You can leave work now at 3 p.m. and connect with your kids a little more and be a little more present with your wife when you get home because life isn't so crazy anymore. Dude, that's the stuff I'm talking about in my marketing. I rarely talk about properties. I don't talk about real estate like too much specifically. It's more so all of that stuff. It's all the subtle hints of like, if you invest in real estate, you can travel more, spend more time with your wife, spend more time with your kids. Like, that's the shit I'm talking about. So like, it's way deeper than just like real estate.
So it's working backwards, and it's so interesting that you have that profile because for my team, I have a profile of Jay, and he's one of our past clients, and we loved working with him. And I was like, if I could literally just clone this guy over and over and over and over again, I would love my job. He was like such a great guy to work with. He was so easy. He was very analytical. He did his own research, and I did the exact same thing. Planning out his day. When does he get up? What does he listen to? When does he take his breaks so that we can send our emails when we think that he'd be taking his breaks or checking his phone? How does he consume his content? The music that he listens to or the shows that he watches. Are there, terms or terminology that are common within those that we could utilize to kind of like capture his attention in our marketing, et cetera, et cetera. So I love the fact that you did that. But I think subtly, if any of you viewers or listeners did not understand what Matt does, is he planned everything, and then what he did was retroactively went, what would this guy want to know on the internet? What questions, you said that Paul was the avatar's name? What questions would Paul have, and what's the kind of shit that Paul wants to view on the internet? And that is how he's creating the content. He's not just, you said shotgun marketing, like just randomly putting shit up and seeing what sticks. He's working backwards for his desired avatar's outcome and then inserting the outcome that they want and creating the content around that.
Exactly. It's like crazy powerful stuff, and it just takes like half an hour of like having fun and like writing out this avatar. Like, I have a whole essay written out what I just said. I know it. I've been using it for the past like 10 years, but like that's what I did. I just wrote it up like an hour. Like, who is Paul? What does he want? What does he want to see online? That's the stuff I'm going to make. Because when Paul watches my videos and I drop these subtle little hints, like, he's like, oh my God, this is my guy. Whereas like, if a 22-year-old or a 60-year-old or whatever watches my stuff, they'll probably get the real estate stuff, but they're not going to get the drop in the hints. So they'll be like, yeah, like this Matt guy's cool and all, but like, I'm not really gonna work with him. Good. I don't want to work with you. I'm trying to alienate you. I want Paul. I want Paul to watch my shit and be like, oh my God, this is my dude. So he has to call me. There's no choice. He has to.
So a portion of it is also disqualification. And I think I'm actually really happy that you brought this up, because I know that you do like coaching calls, et cetera, and that you're a guy who really values his time. And I think one of the things specifically for real estate agents that I see far too often, in one of the reasons why we want to start this podcast, is because real estate agents tend to waste a lot of their time with unqualified people, thinking and hoping maybe one day this person will transact with me. I'm going to spend 12 months following up with this person and sending them listings, and hopefully next year. But I don't think that we add enough friction into our marketing processes, if agents have marketing processes whatsoever, to ensure that the people who are kind of popping out of the bottom are actually qualified. So are there any tips and tricks? I know you mentioned like the content being tailored enough so that it really resonates with your avatar and kind of pushes the other people away. But if someone was to sign up with like a Mat Piche coaching call, is there any friction that you add in there to make sure that it's like, I, Matt, want to actually help you, versus like we all love making money and taking money, but it's also like, if you value your time, I'm sure you want to spend your time with people who are like actually going to do the shit that you tell them to do, because there's nothing more frustrating than you're like, you actually didn't do anything with what I said. So do you add any friction in your marketing to make sure people are qualified?
Yeah, so there is like some friction in the marketing and like how you get a hold of me and how we can start working together. Like there's like a client, it's kind of like an application really, that clients or coaching clients have to fill out, but it's very basic. But the real thing is like the marketing, if you do it right, is friction enough. Within the last like 6 years of me being a realtor, when I had the marketing kind of on point, like every client coming in was like just the avatar. It was like perfect. And like I never worked with time wasters, because investors can be time wasters, like the wrong ones. Like I almost rarely had a client come along that was like that. If they did, they got like quickly squeezed out just from the marketing, just from me doing it after a while. Like I could tell easily who's a time waster, and I would actually fire clients all the time, which is something realtors don't want to do. But the marketing is friction enough, especially if you're just being yourself in your marketing. You're saying like what your beliefs are about everything, because people want to know like everything about you, not just that you sell real estate. Because again, what separates you from the other realtors? People want to know who you are. So just by you saying like what you're interested in, what your beliefs are, what like how you do business, that'll be friction enough, most likely.
So one of the questions that I want to ask you, because I think you're probably the most qualified person to answer this question. So as you mentioned before, many agents just are like, I will help you buy, sell, invest from here to
Vancouver.
It doesn't matter. Like you want to buy or sell, I'll be your person. But one of the questions that I have is, when you're dealing with investors, I don't find that very many agents are actually qualified to deal with investors. They say they want to help, but they're much more qualified to help an end user. And the way that I had kind of described this to my team is like, in the GTA, we have 70,000 plus agents who are equipped to help buyers, like general home buyers and general home sellers, right? Like the average Joe. There are maybe like 10,000 of this big bucket that are equipped to actually help investors. And so it's like one of the easiest ways to niche down is to like remove that competition. But if because there are a lot of tire kicker investors out there, or people who say they're investors, but they're not. What are maybe like 3 qualification questions if I was on the phone with an investor that as an agent, I should maybe ask them to find out how serious they really are, or if they're wasting my time?
Yeah, so it's almost the same question as like being a regular realtor helping regular buyers. Number one, the first question is always, are you pre-approved? Do you have like an approval to get a mortgage? Are you able to buy? Number one. Number two is like, do you know what type of real estate you want to buy? Is it a single family? Is it a multifamily? Is it a student property? Is it Airbnb? Is it a flip? Like, and then if someone's like, I don't know, all of them, it's like, okay, that's a red flag. It's like especially with a realtor working with investors, you're working with a more sophisticated buyer automatically than just like a regular buyer, which is why I like to work with them. But so if the sophisticated investor doesn't know what they want to buy, that's a huge red flag. It's like that's probably number 2. Number 3 is really the gut. So like in all times of my life when I didn't listen to my gut, when it was hiring a contractor or working with a client, I always got screwed by that person. I knew it from the beginning. I was like, this person's going to waste my time. They're not going to pay me. They're going to ruin this job, whatever. And sure enough, that's always going to happen. So I would say listen to your gut, number 3. Like, right away. When you're talking to someone, when you meet with someone, whether they're serious or just wasting your time. Like,
Okay, so specifically, like if they cannot tell you as an investor what kind of strategy they want to follow, immediate red flag.
Yeah, it's like a precursor for red flag. Like I'll still work with newbies who like are excited about real estate. Like I'll kind of work with you through that. But if you truly don't know and you're giving me the vibe of like, oh, don't worry, I'll just buy whatever's a good deal. If it cash flows more than $500, I'll buy whatever it is. Okay, major red flag. Rather than like, I don't know what type of real estate I should buy. Can you help me? That's different. We can work with that. But if someone's just like, I'll just buy anything. Okay, that's an enormous red flag for working with investors.
What do you feel that it's a red flag if an investor is unwilling to sign a representation agreement with you specifically as an agent? Like if they're, let's say, I'm in London or Toronto, you're in KW, and they're like, I could go into any of these markets. I want to find the best deal. I'm not willing to sign anything. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, so for me, I never made clients sign the buyer rep until we put the offer in. Again, I'm working more so on trust. And I told my clients this when we started working together, like, hey, most realtors will have you sign this form or whatever. Like, I'm not going to do that because this is about trust. So that was a gain. And also, not to be like too narcissistic, but like with my marketing level, I was like, yo, you ain't working with anybody anyway. Like, don't even fool yourselves. Like, that's the vibe I gave off anyway, even if it wasn't totally true. Like, that's the vibe I gave off. Like, I'm not going to lock you into something because like, you're not working with anybody else but me. So like, that's just the vibe I gave off anyway. So, and it worked like 99% of the time. So I never made anybody sign anything. I didn't really believe in it. Now, if you're working with like a regular buyer, probably makes more sense because regular buyers are way more flighty than like investors. So I get why a realtor working with them would kind of do that. But even then, if I was specializing with like home buyers, I still wouldn't do that. I just really believe in like the trust thing and putting myself out there as the expert and having so much authority that like you're not working with anybody else.
Yeah. So ours, I think I've been burned both ways. And so for our team specifically, we kind of have like a 3 outing rule where it's like, we're going to do, and it ends up being about, we'll say 20 to 25 hours worth of work for somebody before we're also comfortable working with them. Like if someone wants to sign a BRA immediately, I'm kind of like, that's kind of weird too, because I don't know you and I really don't want to have obligations to be sending you stuff or like have you tied up as a client, because like that's also kind of strange. So for us, we will always do a 3 outing rule where we'll do a strategy call with them. We'll do an education tour with them and then 1 subsequent showing. And I'm like, at that point in time, we know each other well enough to determine if this is a relationship that we want to keep going. That's when I would expect a commitment. If you are unwilling to sign something with us at that point in time, this is not going to be the right relationship because we've just invested a bunch of our time. Now, what I will tell you is, if you're an agent and you're listening to this and that gives you like a really weird gut feeling, then you don't have enough confidence in your process. And I can tell you very confidently, if you set yourself as an authority, like Matt just said, more often than not, I would probably say 75% of the time, we introduce that model during a strategy session. People are coming back to ask us to sign the BRA before we ask them. They're usually like, hey, it's been a second time. We're cool. We like you guys. We're going to sign it with you. And you actually never necessarily need to bring it up to them again. And so it's just something to take into consideration, like Matt said, like framing yourself as an authority with a process. More often than not, if you're new, you think it's weird. You're like, why don't I just toss it in with the offer? You can. But if you say, this is my system, this is my process, this is what we're doing, this is how we're signing it, people are like, oh shit, you're actually pretty serious. Sounds like you guys know what you're doing.
Yeah, those are all great tips. And like as you're talking, actually, I'm thinking back. See, it's been so long since I've been like a full-time realtor. Yeah. But at the beginning, like 2012, 2013, 2014 especially, I'd make clients answer a questionnaire. So I had like 5 questions, like an application, like I said. And then what I would actually do is when they first started working with me, is they would give me $1,000 deposit.
Oh,
and
wow.
So this is like, dude, this is totally illegal. Like I don't think this is even allowed. Like I would take the money and put it in my bank account. And then once they buy, I give it back to them. This is totally not allowed, but like I had a marketing coach at that time and he was like, yeah, you should do this like thing. I was like, whatever. So I just did it, right? But
well, an application fee, it's interesting because I had reached out to Rico about this because there were a couple things that I wanted to offer to the marketplace. And I'm like, because it's really weird about the referrals and everything. It's like, you give someone a referral and you got to do all these disclosures. And I'm like, but those are for clients. So what if someone's not a client? And anyways, disclaimer, nice. I just need to put out a big fat disclaimer here. Do your own due diligence. Yeah. Call Rico. Yeah. I'm not guaranteeing you anything. However, the email that was sent to me, I said, would I be willing to offer something to the marketplace as a real estate agent in exchange for money if they're not a client? And the email was, as long as there was a clear definition, the exchange of money in returns for what they're getting, in theory, you could take an application fee. or whatever it happens to be to work for, as long as there's a clear exchange of you delivering something of value, and you're not like locking them into a BRA or whatever it happens to be. So if you want to do something like that, call Rico, do your own due diligence. I'm not taking any heat for that. I take no liability. I'm just saying I reached out and this was the response that I got. So I don't know if you did anything illegal. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no idea, but I did it anyway. And like, that's how I kind of run business. It's like, I'm just going to do it and I'll deal with consequences later. I'll say sorry after. But like, you need some of that in business, especially being a realtor. I'm not saying go outside the lines and do like totally illegal stuff, but like, you just got to be ready to just do stuff and don't be so much of a goody-goody. Like, just get there.
What you said was, like, when we were talking about adding friction into your funnel or your marketing piece, someone willing to shell out $1, like 1,000 is a lot, but $1 in exchange for your time, it is statistically proven. If someone parts with $1, the likelihood of them actually continuing to transact and spend money with you goes up like infinitely, right? Yeah. And so that one piece of friction of just saying like, hey, I would, could potentially take an application fee for this, shows the sincerity and the quality of lead that person really is. Even if there's like a money back guarantee or anything like that when it comes to the marketing piece, that is a piece of friction because people who aren't serious are never going to shell out $1. But people who are serious are like, yeah, I'll put my credit card into the thing. Like, I'm actually kind of interested. And so your quality of lead instantaneously goes up as a result of that.
Yeah, exactly.
So I want to know, of all of your sales experiences, we're talking like, what, 10 years approximately, right? Yeah. 11 years? Like, what's the craziest shit that's ever happened to you? Like on a showing or like a negotiation or like tenants? Like, I want to know, like, what's the craziest thing?
I can't think of like one. It's just like this, with investors, we're seeing really crappy houses. We're going to like hoarder houses. We're just like nasty stuff. So like, that's kind of probably the worst of it.
Yeah.
Kind of weird things to be like negotiating. Like while I'm in like carpenter clothes, I'm all dirty in Home Depot, like negotiating a deal while picking up materials in my early days. Just a ton of that going on. So I can't think of like something absolutely crazy happened to me. It's still pretty boring, which is good.
Like, did you ever, so because you were an agent, in 2012, were you doing in-person offer presentations? Did you ever do them?
No, that's so funny. I mean, it happened like once or twice, but not really. Just because I was like younger, into social media, millennial, like I was already, I feel like ahead of the curve, especially starting with marketing, doing YouTube, and like nobody knew what YouTube was really in 2012. Yeah. I was kind of already ahead of the curve, and like I'm super introverted as well. So like I just rather do things over text or email, like most millennials. So I was already on that trend hardcore. Like I was doing e-signatures on like Adobe way before DocuSign came out, way before it was like totally acceptable and legal. I was still like, again, that's what I'm saying about like just doing shit. Like I would sign e-signatures way before, back in 2013, 2014, doing offers that way when it wasn't really allowed. Like my broker was like, is this an e-signature? No, I promise it's mine. I made it look like mine. Like, it's totally like, I was like, I don't got time to drive around town. Like, what is it? So like, I'm not a boomer, right? So like, so that's basically how I rolled.
Yeah, no, and I hear that 100%. And as soon as we were like, e-signatures are in, I'm like, I'm never driving to somebody's house. But the reason why I asked that is because as an agent-focused investor, like, I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I've ever really seen you dressed up in a full suit and tie. You know what I mean? And so that's what I was gonna say. Like, if you went to these in-person offer presentations and they were for like investment properties, were you showing up? Like, I honestly think if you showed up looking like a contractor and you were the agent, you probably actually have a strategic advantage with that versus like, hey, here comes some douchebag guy in like a suit or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I'd love to talk a little bit about that because I do think a lot of new agents think like, I gotta get dolled up. Maybe it's out of respect for their clients or like it makes them feel like they're going to perform better. But like, I used to do the suit thing too. And now I'm just kind of like, I think people just like me for like being authentic and who I am. So I'd love for you to like talk a little bit on that.
I think it's like, you can do both. I really think it comes down to like confidence. Like if you can rock a suit and like people can feel the vibe that like you always wear a suit, like there's just some people, and even some people that we know, like in the investing community, like you never see them not in a suit. Like that's the guy that always wears a suit.
Sure.
So like, if you're one of those people, like I think people can feel like, okay, this is what he always does. Like it's cool, right? For me, I don't like wearing a suit, and I feel like it did bring it down a level where it was more, I don't know, like even. Like I'm just wearing the same clothes they are, maybe a little nicer. Like I didn't wear like carpenter clothes, thankfully, like caulking all over me or whatever. I would just get dressed into like normal-ish clothes. But yeah, like I never was a suit guy. I'll wear nice shoes and nice jeans and maybe a suit jacket if I'm at a conference. Like I'm wearing a t-shirt underneath the suit jacket. But yeah, like, very, very low key, and that's just how I've always done it. It might work, it might not, but for me, it worked.
Do you think that it makes a big difference? Like, I mean, other than for you internally, like I can see why that would be the thing. It's like, hey, if I put this on and like, this is my confidence suit and I feel like I'm rocking, I'm doing 110%, like this is the thing that puts me in the zone to be able to perform at like my optimal performance level, I 100% agree. But I think that if someone's putting on a suit to put on a show and they're not actually feeling like authentically themselves, and they're like, this kind of just isn't necessarily my vibe, I don't necessarily think that you need to do it. I think people would be more inclined to work with the authentic version of you than putting on a show.
Yeah, and again, it comes down to your avatar too. Like, what are they wearing? How are they as people? Are they more professional? Are they more high class? So like, will they expect that from you? So like, for example, for me, like my realtor in Florida, who's my guy, like he's a really dressed up dude, loves all this stuff. And like when I first met him, he showed me some properties that we bought. I was like, this guy why is he wearing this stuff? Number one, it's Florida. Come on, man. But like, I was just like, what are you doing? Like, I don't like this, but that's him, whatever, right? So for me, I'm still working with him. Like, it's fine. But for some people, they might just be like put off by like this realtor's wearing a suit. He's just going to scam me. He's so professional and slick and got the hair slicked back. Like some people don't like that at all.
Yeah.
So it really depends, like, who's your avatar again, right? Like, what are they expecting you to wear?
Okay, so before we wrap, I want to ask you a couple of things. Sales or marketing course. You're allowed to plug your own too. You can plug your own here in a second, but I want to ask you third party, like of all of the things that you've studied, you know, books that you've read, courses you've taken, anything like that, are there one or two that you would suggest for our audience? Like, yeah, this is like totally worth the investment.
Yeah, so Jab, 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 Right Hook by Gary Vaynerchuk. Basically, anything by Gary Vaynerchuk is like what you should be listening to in terms of marketing. Surprisingly, I didn't take like a lot of marketing courses. I'm just more of like an observer. Like I can really watch something and break it down. Like, why did they shoot the video like this? Why did they say that thing just like that? Like I'm really like nerdy like that, I guess. So like I just did a lot of that. And then I hired a marketing coach early on, not a realtor coach, nothing to do with real estate, a marketing coach specifically. And he's the one that told me to do all this specializing thing, get your avatar, write the essay, and just market towards that niche, like all that stuff. So I just learned all that from him. Now, obviously, all of that information is totally general public, and I teach it as well in my courses and YouTube videos. Yeah. But it's really just marketing 101. So like, you don't need a fancy course. You can get like everything you pretty much need for free on YouTube, especially nowadays. So I would just focus on like killer marketers and just doing exactly what they say. Like, and there's only like 2 or 3 you have to follow. Don't feel like you have to follow like everybody, especially realtor marketers, which are the damn worst in my mind. Of like, they're the worst. Get on the phone and cold call for like 8 hours a day. What are you doing? Absolutely not.
I mean, the calling, I will say, we do a lot of Facebook ads and we do a lot of calls. It works. It's been proven. But I do think that there's like, if that's not your vibe, there's a million ways for you to get business. The one most important thing is like, just be consistent with it, right?
Yeah.
Were there any other books, sales-wise, or any other tips that you have on coaching? I know you mentioned coaching, and like I'm a huge proponent. I've invested a shit ton of money in coaching and accountability. So is that still something that you see through until this day? And like, how do you feel about coaching and investing your money in something like that? Yeah,
I think coaching is very important, mainly for them slapping you, really, which is what you said, like the accountability. That's really what the coach is there. Because what I always say is like 9 times out of 10, you already know what you have to do. Like you already know you should make some videos. You know you should call this person back, follow up with this. Like you know everything you have to do, really. There's nothing really new that you need to learn in most cases. It's just having somebody slap you and be like, did you do that video? Have you done this thing? What are your goals for the week? And then you respond back on Friday and then they slap you. Like, what'd you get done this week? And then they're like, oh, I didn't get to that video or that phone call. And they're like, come on, man. Like just having someone do that is worth all the money rather than like looking for new strategies. There's very little strategies, like tactical things you need to learn. Like, because like I said, you already know almost everything you need to do. It's just, you're not doing it for whatever reason.
That is totally fair. Okay, one last question I have before you wrap. Are you a proponent of AI, or are there any like leverage tools that you think somebody can use in sales or marketing in their business that like has had an impact on you?
Yeah, AI is crazy, and like everybody should be doing it, especially a content creator, which after this, I hope more realtors become content creators. An incredible tool. We use AI for everything, like thumbnails, like AI art. All of our thumbnails are art. It's crazy because we can, like if we're making a video, just a joke, like about Trudeau or something, I can make Trudeau do something like silly or whatever on the thumbnail, which obviously he would never do in real life. So I can make AI do that crazy stuff for like eye-catchy thumbnails for videos, making blog posts, making video scripts, video ideas. I type into ChatGPT all the time, like, give me 10 viral YouTube videos about real estate investing with this strategy. Like, it gives me all the video ideas. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, like, you have to be using AI for all your marketing.
I think I've gone really, really, really far down the AI rabbit hole. As far as, and here's a quick plug. If anybody wants a sick AI tool, I actually made this internally for our team, but I will give it away. You send me a message, and essentially what it does is called rapid reply. And so after you finish up a phone call with someone and you say, hey, I'll give you an example. Hey, Matt, you said that you wanted some information on down payments because you're still continuing to save for your down payment. What you would do is you would type in the person's name, Matt. I said I was going to follow up on down payment. I put the topic in. I go online. I find an article, right, on down payments. I toss it in, and then I put in the time frame. So there's only 4 inputs: name, topic that you said you'd follow up on, an article, and the time frame. And it writes you a full follow-up email with a synopsis of what happens in the article. It's because one of the things that I found specifically for our guys is like, they'll make a lot of calls, and then what they'll do is they'll be like, shit, should I continue to call, or should I like stop? Should I stop what I'm doing right now? Should I send the email? But I kind of broke up my call flow, and they would forget how to do it. So I'm like, I need to minimize the time between calling and doing the follow-up so that they actually remember to follow up on what they said. So I just build like this little tool for them. And this is how crazy the thing is. Like, I know jack shit about coding or anything like that, but I still figured out how to build this little thing. So if anybody wants it, a bonus for listening 50 minutes into this podcast, I will send that to you. Just fire me a quick message on Instagram is probably the easiest. And we'll wrap it there. So like, if anybody wants to get a hold of you, Matt, any of your courses, watching the YouTube videos, this is your chance to kind of plug yourself, let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me if you type in the Fruitful Investor in YouTube. You'll find me. Type in Mat Piche in Instagram. You'll find me Fruitful Investor as well. All my stuff is there. All my courses, all my videos. You'll find all the stuff just from those 2 channels. So type in the Fruitful Investor. You'll find me.
What's the one product that you have which would be the most beneficial for real estate agents, do you think?
Yeah, so I have a course called Unlimited Cash, which is basically the entire social media strategy that I do on a daily basis. I teach it in great detail for the purpose of gaining partners for a real estate investing business, but it's the exact same course, exact same stuff to do the realtor business. It's the same marketing material. So like, if you get this course, just whenever I say partners, input the word with client. Like, literally, all the stuff I teach is exactly what I do. How to write a blog, how to shoot a video, what to say in it, how to do the avatar, all that stuff is in that course. It's only $500, which is crazy. You'll learn everything you need to learn about how to crush and separate yourself from just a Joe Blow realtor.
There you go. There you go. $500. You guys can have a full-blown business plan for marketing and take one step closer to being like the man we have here today, the Fruitful Investor, Mat Piche. Matt, thank you so much for being on the show. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here with us. And anybody that's still listening to this, make sure that you go and follow Matt.
Thanks for having me.
No worries.